Hi, Kaylee. How are you doing today?
Hey, I am good. We are officially in our favorite season, which is
Yeah.
summer. So very excited about that. How are you?
Good. For context for the listeners, we are both cancers, so we love the summer season. We love to be outside by the water. Do you have any fun travel plans this summer?
I do. I am actually going to be flying into Boston, which little preview for our episode today, and taking a road trip up through Maine in June. So I'm very excited about that. And then my cousin's getting married in Canada. So going to Canada, we're gonna take my daughter to Niagara Falls for the first time. So that's exciting as well. But yeah, that's what I have on the books for right now. How about you?
Well, I am actually going to be staying put. I feel like this season has been very busy with lots of travels, lots of great opportunity. But I just moved to Nashville, Tennessee. So I'm excited to explore this summer in my new city, find some new things to do, find some hikes, and just get out and about around here.
Very fun. Yeah, I bet you can find a lot of cool day trips and stuff. And I still have it on my list to come and visit. So maybe I'll
Yes,
get to that this summer, but we'll see. Um,
perfect.
but I did kind of give a little preview that we're going to be talking about Boston. Do we want to tell our listeners what we're going to be talking about today?
So today is a very special episode. Kaylee and I both live in the South. And so the Kentucky Derby is a huge thing here in the South. Everyone knows it, everyone loves it. So we'll be talking a little bit about that event as well as the Boston Marathon. I cry at every TikTok marathon video I see with everyone holding the signs and cheering people on. I love seeing all the stories. I just saw one today from the Boston Marathon, which just happened a week before we're recording. And one of the ladies who was the last finisher did it for her daughter who passed a few years ago. And she was like, I don't care how long it takes, I'm going to make it to the end. And I was just crying. So I'm not a runner, but every time I see the Boston Marathon, it makes me want to get into running. And more specifically, we're really excited to talk to these DMOs and see, the impact of these big events and what that looks like for their cities, Halo cities, surrounding cities, and partners within the destination.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I will admit I've never been to either the Kentucky Derby or Boston Marathon yet, but both really cool events that are huge traffic drivers, huge tourism drivers. And as we're heading into the summer season, I know a lot of our destinations have tons of events, a lot of big events that happen every year and every summer, and especially this year with it being America 250. So we're really hoping you all enjoy the episode and learn a little something to take back for you all and your teams.
Yes, let's get into it.
All right. Well, we have two really great guests with us today. So I'm going to let them go ahead and introduce themselves, where they're from. Jim, we'll start with you.
Oh, great. Thanks. Hi, everybody. I'm Jim Epperson, Executive Director of SOIN Tourism. Our long name is the Clark and Floyd Counties Convention and Tourism Bureau, and that's why you come up with the DVA. And we are the DMO for a suburban area of Louisville, Kentucky, but on the Indiana side of the river.
Thanks so much for having me. My name is Dave O'Donnell. I am the Vice President of Communications for Meet Boston. So we are the destination marketing organization promoting Greater Boston, so 45 cities and towns within the Boston-Cambridge area. And we really appreciate you having us today. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we're so excited for our conversation today. Not only is it timely with the events that take place in both of your cities, but also with everything going on with America 250 and World Cup. There's lots of conversations around big events and kind of the impact that has on destinations. So I'd love to start out today with, while you guys don't organize those events, completely. There's obviously event organizers for both those big events. It does have a huge impact in the city, both in economic terms and also in terms of, hotels and partners and the small businesses. So in terms of a host city and a halo city, how do you guys kind of prepare for that impact?
The Kentucky Derby this year is 152 years old. And so it isn't just economic, it's cultural.
Yeah.
It is part of the identity of our region. And even though we're on the Indiana side, it's ours too. We love it. I can cry with back home again in Indiana, and I can cry when they play my old Kentucky home at the beginning of the race. So it really is a part of our fabric, and so we share it. We share what is ours inherently with all of those visitors and with that huge TV audience every year, and have been doing so for a long time. So yeah, it really takes over our world for about 2 weeks leading up to the first Saturday in May.
Yeah.
I would say the same thing. I mean, particularly for the Boston Marathon, it's something that it's such an iconic race. You know, it really marks the beginning of our visitor season in a way, right? You know, we're of course always trying to promote Boston in all seasons and Q1 visitation as well. But we have these really tremendous and just iconic sporting events that really bookend what we understand to be our, really most vibrant tourism season. So that starts off, in April with the marathon, and then in the fall we have the Head of the Charles Regatta, which is another famous international and celebrated annual event in Boston. But echoing Jim, it really becomes part of the fabric and culture of the destination, right? And in Boston, coming out of winter, and again, we love winter, but coming out of winter, when you start to see more spring blooms and the Boston Common and Public Garden and throughout the Back Bay and throughout all of Greater Boston, the marathon takes place as that transition is happening, right? And it also takes place on Patriots Day, which is a holiday in Massachusetts. It's not a federal national holiday, but it's a holiday here, right? And what it does is it commemorates, some of those signature events that happened, those catalytic events that led to the founding of the country, that led to the American Revolution, right? So before the Declaration, there was all these events in Massachusetts that were happening, and that particular holiday, Patriots Day, commemorates the battles of Lexington and Concord. So there's all these aspects of it, besides just the fact that 30,000 participants come in and their guests and their teams, and the economic impact, which is massive. I'm sure we'll get into that. There's all of this other kind of symbolism, both real but also symbolic reasons why the marathon really ushers in such a critical moment for Boston. And then we really try to ride that wave right into mid and late spring, and of course into the summer as well.
Something that I find interesting that both of you kind of alluded to in your responses was the emotional connection that that all of people have to these events. I mean, everybody knows what they are. Those who participate in them, they have that really strong emotional connection to whatever it is, or maybe they just want to be a part of these iconic events in some way. But how do you feel like that emotional connection plays into your destinations, the marketing that you're doing within your organization, and how we are speaking to potential visitors?
Well, for Boston, I'll say, the marathon is the oldest in the US, right? So not only does it kind of underscore our destination as a place of firsts, right? We always celebrate that there's all these, oldest and first things that happen in Boston. But it also is about, sports, resiliency, endurance, innovation in its own way, right? So there's all these elements that are main characteristics of the marathon itself, and those who choose to run it, that we lean into very much as a destination, right? So we feel like, again, there's a natural synergy between what the marathon means, right, and who we feel like we are as a destination, and it is emotional ultimately. Like we definitely lean into that human emotional aspect of it.
Yeah, I think that all of the hype, the 2 weeks of partying that leads up to a 2-minute race, creates this excitement, this buildup, that I think I'm sure the guests feel it from every frontline person. This is our chance to shine, and our chance to show off our home. to all of those visitors. And so I think that it's not just something that comes once and passes through and it's going to go somewhere, next year. It's something that since it happens year after year, there's everybody in the community has some kind of story, some kind of past family member memory tied to it. And so that is what comes out in the hospitality.
I think that's something people can feel even if they're not at the event. I know we were talking in the intro. I'm not a big runner. I've only done like 10Ks, but every time I see the Boston Marathon come up on my feed, I'm like, oh, I want to be there. I want to be in the energy. And same for the Derby. I mean, I went to school in the South, and it was something that even in South Carolina, everyone would be so excited to get on the bus and head over there. And, it's something that I think people can feel through the marketing and through their screens outside of actually being at the experience, and it makes you want to be a part of it because you can feel that emotional connection to both those events and the place and significance it ties to it.
I'll say one thing that I think has evolved is live coverage of the events, and how compared to when I think about how ABC covered the Derby versus how NBC does now. It's a full-on production all day long for NBC. And they do a really good job of conveying that through that long form storytelling, with different segments on food and bourbon and fashion and through speckled into the broadcast throughout the day. And then there's horses. But I think that the evolution of media coverage has helped bring that home, to the TV watchers, which then raises the mystique and the appeal of the event, and turns events like Derby and Boston Marathon into bucket list items.
And just to remark on that comment is that, we have both a national and, local broadcast, right? So there's ways for people to engage with it from both perspectives. And yes, like we know that people are going to be seeing it broadcast nationally, and that they're going to be seeing within that elements of Boston that they will find appealing, right? Not only our legacy of great sports heritage, but again, like the beginning of our tourism season, seeing this, it's interesting because April is very variable here. So it could be like an 80-degree day, or it could be a 40-degree day. But the idea is to see Boston kind of this awakening, and we are able to inspire prospective visitation from that, certainly.
And, with the added layer with being in 2026, we have UGC and we have TikTok and we have influencers or even just locals who might post a video from any event or any trip that they're going on and just go viral, and you have no control over that. It's not like you paid that person. So how has that, just in the last 10 years, probably as that's continued to rise, how has that changed things for you all? And how do you help direct the narrative when there is that user generated aspect to it?
We don't try to direct it, and we we jump on and ride. I mean, it's because that is reaching new audiences, different audiences, and to any extent that we are working before the event, with our target list, of new media, especially. That is a hook for this region. And we're here to extol the virtues of Southern Indiana, but let's not kid ourselves. We're part of Louisville, and so that is a part of our pitch, all the time, is the great things that you have heard about over there, because they do have a higher profile. Here are these other cool things that tack on and round out that experience. So we try to use that as a hook, especially for new media.
I'd say it's we have so much evolved the way that we curate and produce content, right? So yes, we're also leaning into and sharing posts that we see that we're inspired by and that, capture the marathon experience and that we think also jives with our brand a bit. We produce reels that we often do the building within TikTok and then post both TikTok and Instagram. And I will say that, our Instagram reels at Meet Boston USA are fantastic content that traditionally get between, I don't know, 20,000 and 100,000 views. Our marathon reel just got over 1 million views, right? So when you look at the sort of content we're pumping out every single day, that could be, best neighborhoods, best parks, best cocktail bars, best bistros, we had a great one recently on vintage shopping sites. They get great engagement, right? And we're happy when something gets 25,000 views and, a few thousand likes. But then when you look at a piece of content like the montage we produced for the marathon and you see how heavy that hits, when you're getting almost 100,000 likes and again over 1 million views, it's just a testament to the fact that race, that event, that annual occurrence is something that resonates and lands in a way that's just altogether different than all the other great and diverse and dynamic content we're producing, right? Because the other content is all tremendous, right? But when you see the impact of something that is as singularly popular and just famous and a driver of interest like the marathon, when you look at those social media numbers, it's just like right there in front of you. Just how important and significant this race is, not only for us, but to our global audience.
Kind of going along what you both touched on, how do you um, continue capitalizing on that visibility from these events after the events have, concluded? What kind of strategies do you guys have in place there?
Well, for us, I mean, it's the beginning of just a remarkable convergence of events this summer, right?
Yeah.
So we're all going to have the marathon, of course, but then soon enough we'll be in a five week window where we have 7 World Cup matches plus the 250th, plus a massive tall ships festival, which will be very much an international event as well. There's ships coming from dozens of countries, over 60 ships in all. So we're having a lot of important conversations just around this point, right? Like how we take the legacy of these events, right, and ride that momentum or leverage it or create lasting conversations, messaging, institutions, infrastructure that helps us get to where we want to be in terms of continuing that destination appeal. So one thing I'll just say that's very tangible with World Cup, for example, and the marathon plays a role here as well, is that we are building in Boston for the first time a sports commission. Jim, I won't be surprised if you have those down there. They're in the DMO space a popular thing. But we've really looked at this summer and these games and the marathon as well, of course, as an opportunity to really bring together stakeholders that maybe are in the tourism and hospitality space, or maybe are just another corporate entity that calls Boston home, like a DraftKings or Dunkin', a New Balance, and get them to join what is, going to be a sports commission so that we have multiple stakeholders willing to, have skin in the game, but also help us strategically bid on and win events, right? So that's something that we're very much looking to ride out of World Cup. And then we have another significant anniversary coming, which is in 2030, Boston will celebrate its 400th birthday. There's a lot of conversations around like how we take the legacy and momentum of the 250th, the semi-quincentennial, a term I've practiced a lot over the past 5 years, and then ride that towards 2030. And like, where do we want to be as a destination and as a brand when we're celebrating that 400th birthday?
Yeah, for us, Derby is important. It's not it it is not associated with Southern Indiana by nature. It is associated more with Louisville. So we don't ride it as much throughout the rest of the year, but we do use it for opportunities like we've got a group of about 9 tour operators in town early week when we can still get hotel rooms. And they're at the track today being entertained. And that group already provides us and, will provide us with more group business going forward. We've used it for partner entertainment, a day at the track during the week. We use the people who are in town, we're going after them relentlessly to capture email addresses to remarket. And so for us, it's not high level strategic because it's not the event that we're associated with. We claim it as far as we can, but there are limits.
Are you working directly with the Louisville team and their tourism department as well, or are you kind of just separate
Oh,
for
oh,
this event specifically?
they're so swamped right now.
Yeah.
They
Do you
they
guys do, co-ops or partnerships or anything like that within the DMO area?
Other times of the year and in other situations, yes.
Hmm.
But this is theirs. They've got direct clients in that they're going to take to Oaks and Derby on Friday and Saturday. They can get hotel rooms
Yeah.
during that time period, and they can get access to tickets
Mhm.
because Churchill Downs is their partner. And so now for them, it's an all hands on deck. And we just work to take care of our partners over here.
Well, I think that's really relevant right now because a lot of DMOs are experiencing the same thing with World Cup. Even though it's not, taking place directly in their city, they are a Halo city. And so they are gonna, feel that impact as well and have to start preparing. So from that standpoint, how do you guys prepare for an event like this in terms of the visitor experience? Do you work with your partners, ahead of time to kind of help prepare them? What does that preparation look like just for, not the event itself, but the amount of visitors that will be in and around the destination?
I mean, for us, the marathon being such a great tradition, we've worked with the Boston Athletic Association, which runs the marathon for many years. They're close partners. We partnered with them on an economic impact study that I referenced earlier that we did with UMass, one of the colleges here. And we work with them just on promoting it to various audiences, right? Throughout the 26 miles as well, right? Like it connects so many different cities and towns. Some which are in our regional tourism council, which is what we call, the area that we are tasked with promoting, and others that go into the Metro West area of Boston, which is a different tourism council, right? So we also work closely with that tourism council, and this is true for World Cup as well, for example. We know that people were going to be staying all throughout Greater Boston, even down into Rhode Island as well for World Cup matches. It's at Gillette Stadium, which will be called Boston Stadium, which is about directly in between Boston and Providence, right? So we have all the transportation going from Boston, added trains, added coach service and whatnot. They're picking up at hotels. But we are working with the local host committee, right? So all the host FIFA destinations have a local host committee. We call it FIFA Boston World Cup 26 on a number of operational, logistical, communication sort of things, right? Preparing for the day of the match, for example, and just getting everything lined up in terms of how we will communicate out to fans, visitors, everyone, right? Um, but we're also working with other tourism councils, like again, Metro West, that are planning. They know there's going to be that halo effect, that spillover into the western suburbs of Boston, not only for the hotels, but we want to promote their cultural events, their festivals, their watch parties, right? Their fan activations. So the woman at the Metro West CVB actually has done a tremendous job programming that region for watch parties and whatnot. So what we're trying to do from like a digital and email marketing standpoint right now is to make sure that our FIFA page, our consumer facing page, is bringing in as many community and neighborhood events as possible, right? So even if you're a smaller business that's not as familiar with the travel economy or don't really know what it means to be visitor ready, we're trying to use this moment to familiarize more folks and businesses and neighborhoods with what that means by showing them who we are, what our value prop is, and that if you want to get your event in front of a global audience, send it to us because our page through a media buy and whatnot is going to have the top search results anyways. So it's also a relationship building opportunity for us at Meet Boston.
Yeah, I think it starts with relationship with the partners and getting getting the partners geared up. It's not hard. Again, it's a 150-year-old event, and so everybody knows it's coming. They get it. Anybody that's been through it. But we do have some group bookings in this week in our properties who are coming in for Derby. So on the sales side, working um, with the individual properties to get those placed. We use it to call attention as much as anything to the value of the visitor industry in our community because Derby is something that our residents get, and they understand that it is a draw. And so the media on this side of the river, or even Louisville media, will pay attention to the impact on Southern Indiana. And so it's a chance for us to get that message out there one more time about the impact of visitors on Southern Indiana's economy, and then they keep doing the same stories every year, and we'll keep feeding it to them. So it's great.
Just to echo that real quick, it's like it's a great opportunity to remind people or teach them for the first time the impact of that visitor dollar,
Yeah.
right? So let's say you're a small business in one of Boston neighborhoods, your coffee shop, you might have people from across the street, across the river, Cambridge, or Back Bay or whatever, that come to your neighborhood. That dollar is going to circulate in this local economy either way, right? If it's someone from London that's here to run the marathon or see England play Ghana in the World Cup, that's a new dollar entering our economic ecosystem, right? And it's a dollar that also generates taxes for public coffers. So not only is a heavier, more impactful dollar in spend, but it's a dollar that can be taxed to improve the lives of the citizenry of Massachusetts without taxing that very citizenry. So like these are other things that we're also trying to make sure that businesses that feel like they're on the margins or even outside the travel economy know that they're actually not, and that there's really significant reasons why they should embrace how they market themselves and work with us to market to a visitor audience, because it's a fundamentally more impactful experience in terms of your business health if you're bringing those visitors in.
Yeah, absolutely. So speaking of kind of how you're looking at all of these events at the end, what are the metrics that you're focusing on? How are you measuring success from these large scale events in your destination? And, not only to bring back to your partners and show them the value and also your residents, but how are you communicating that with your stakeholders?
We'll take a look at, since we're trying to capitalize on somebody else's party in a certain way, we'll this is one area where some of the marketing metrics and some of the engagements type of measurements can help us tell the story. We use this opportunity to fill in the blank to help Southern Indiana. And of course, there are economic metrics that we'll be looking at. Visitor, I'm sorry, resident sentiment is not that much of a factor for us because it is such a known quantity. It's only one weekend, and everybody expects that they're probably not going to be able to get into their favorite restaurant anyway, and so they don't plan it. So there's not this line of visitors getting in their way, right? So the resident sentiment does not take a hit over this because it's tradition. We have our own derby parties. We don't even try to go out. We bring friends over and watch the race, and we bet among each other or through the app. That's how we experience it, and so there's not that conflict.
I live in Florida, and Jacksonville does the PGA Tour every year, and that's like my friends that live in Jacksonville. They're like, yeah, we know it's coming. We pull up, like we know we're going to be stuck in traffic if we try to go anywhere. Like, so that is, a lot of the case sometimes with residents. It's just like, yeah, it's the way of life. We learn it. We love our destination or our home for it, and that just is what it is. So it's funny.
Haley, I love that's where your mind went, because I was just looking at some like stuff from the Masters, which just happened. And there was some residents who Airbnb their home. A lot of them do that and leave for the weekend.
Yeah.
And I was reading this one story. This family pays for their mortgage for the year from that one weekend from the Masters.
Dang.
And so there's definitely a lot of understanding of these historical events and the impact it'll have on their community, but in turn, the economic impact is huge for the
There's
residents.
a lot of people doing that for World Cup here, right?
Yeah.
So like because of the hotel inventory is what it is, and it will book up. And there's people that live near the stadium or in between Boston and the stadium that are finding they can Airbnb their house for a few weeks for tens of thousands of dollars, right?
Yeah.
And so that becomes kind of a win-win. DMOs occupy an interesting space always as it relates to the resident vertical and how you engage them with either big events or how you market, right? Like we have become very focused on making sure that how we talk about Boston and promote it globally lands here first, right? Like if we're not capturing the story of people who call Boston home, live and work here, that we don't have the credibility to tell someone from San Francisco or New York why they should come here, right? In terms of metrics, because that was something else you asked, our FIFA page off of meetboston.com has become the top performing landing page on our site, right? And that's just from a couple months of building content and organic search strategy, then coupled with what has just begun as a like a paid advertising campaign around it. It has just shot up to the top performing page on our site. So that's something we're tracking closely and something that we, again, when I say to those businesses, hey, get us your event so we can go on this page, people are going to see it. It's important. And then, of course, we're looking at all the advanced bookings for both flights and hotels. We want, obviously, occupancy to be where we expect it to be. The FIFA block isn't going to materialize like we thought, but that will fill in with transient visitors. Those rooms will be consumed. So those are all things we're looking at. And as many, spectator or visitor emails and data we can capture, zip codes from ticket sales and whatnot that we can retarget and remarket to. We have a whole suite of strategic moves that'll follow suit, and we'll attempt to do that.
I'm going to be in Boston for the England-Ghana game. I'm not going to the game. We're just flying into Boston because we're gonna drive up through Maine, and kind of do like a whole New England road trip. And we were like, what's
Nice.
going on? Like everything like seems like it's like crazy, can't find a hotel or anything. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's the World Cup. We didn't even think about it. But I thought
Well,
that
in
was like
England too,
fun.
right? Like, so we have the
Yeah.
England match and we have two Scotland matches as well. So that's already, the UK is already our top overseas source market.
Mhm.
So you have that factor, just is what it is. And then now those teams playing here. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
driving it.
So question, Dave, because obviously Jim has given us a lot of insight on how they're working with Louisville. And since, like as I just said, I'm flying into Boston because it's an easy flight for me to get to from Tampa, and then we're going to
Yep.
drive up through New England. Like, there's obviously a lot of overflow into other cities and states in the New England area since you are such a close drive market for a lot of them. Are you working with any other DMOs or any other tourism partners in other states or cities to kind of one for both Boston Marathon and with World Cup?
Yeah, no, we do it. And even outside of the big events, we try to, have close relationships, particularly with our state tourism office, the Mass Office of Travel and Tourism, the other tourism councils. I mentioned one, which is Metro West. There are 16 in total in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And then, like many regions of the country, there is an umbrella DMO for the region, right, which is Discover New England. And we work very closely with them on both trade and media initiatives and FAMs and whatnot. There's a couple markets like Mexico, for example. We have a joint initiative with Discover New England to message, Boston as a gateway to an entire regional experience, which includes the mountains of New Hampshire and the wilderness and seaside of Maine, the beauty of Vermont. I'll give Southern New England a little plug too. Rhode Island's beautiful. Connecticut, we kind of share. New York and New England kind of share Connecticut, so that's like a different thing. But we work in close concert with Discover New England to promote the region. And because we have such great international connectivity via Logan, the airport here, it helps us to position our destination in the region, together to benefit from that. Other drive market locations, like throughout the Northeast Corridor, and of course Canada as well, are also really important for us to kind of be speaking the same language with the regional DMO. And we know a lot of those people, especially from New York, go to the Cape Cod, and the islands, Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket. So we also do kind of collaborative co-op campaigns with our partners down in the Cape and also Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket, often through the State Tourism Office, because we want everyone to get a piece of that visitor dollar.
I imagine you have to be with the Patriots. All my best friends are from New England, and so it's like its own little culture in itself. So I imagine there's definitely a lot of conversations going during that season as well.
Yeah, for sure. And sports tourism generally is huge for
Oh
the
yeah.
region.
Well, I know we both touched on, how significant these events are to the culture of the DMOs, and, not every destination has an event as significant, tied to their brand or so closely to their brand. But there will be, a lot of upcoming events with America 250. What piece of advice would you give to someone who's maybe, starting out for the first time and kind of understanding the event market for their destination.
I think regardless of the size, it is possible to capture an event that starts to define your destination, at least in some market niche. Um, for us, it's been Abbey Road on the River, which is the world's largest Beatles-inspired music festival, Memorial Day weekend. And it was in Louisville for many years. And the promoter had decided to leave Louisville. And somebody on our team who knew him called and said, before you leave Louisville, come look at the other side of Louisville. And so in 2017 was our first year, and we've had it ever since. And we're going to continue going. We're not quite to a new 10-year contract yet, but there's no end in sight for that event, and it's allowed us to have something that we hang our hats on as a DMO and as a community that is unique in the world, um, and that drives great business on a weekend that Memorial Day weekend is usually not that great for us. Um, I I lived in and was active in the industry, but only on the board of the DMO in Mansfield, Ohio, where they have Incarceration, which is a music festival held at the former Ohio State Reformatory, where Shawshank Redemption was filmed. And that is part of the Danny Wimmer Presents empire, who
Mhm.
have Bourbon and Beyond and Louder Than Life in Louisville. Well, they've got this event in Mansfield, which is a population 50,000. And so that has become their opportunity to own an identity tied to a music festival that they wouldn't have created on their own, but they certainly partnered with one of the best promoters around to make something happen. Um, so there are opportunities. It doesn't have to be a 140,000 people crammed into Churchill Downs to have an impact. And so I think events are great product development, especially for smaller destinations.
Yeah, I think that's so true of all sizes. I mean, I think it's important, first of all, to know what you're trying to build, understanding that that path might deviate a little bit, but the why behind it. And I think a big part of that initial phase, is again getting that local buy-in, right? Like you want the residents of your destination to feel like they're partners of a program or within a program, right? That if you build something that becomes an annual event that drives visitation, that they will be poised to get some part of that promotion as well, and that they feel part of it, that they feel included, right? Speaking of music festivals, we have one here that's called Boston Calling. That's every Memorial Day weekend. It's now in its um, 12th season or so. It's actually not happening this May because of the other events happening. They're taking 1 year off. But it has grown from a small event that was at City Hall Plaza to a massive event that's out at the Harvard Athletic Complex where 40,000 people can go instead of 10, right? And there's a coastal town south of here called Marshfield that a few years ago tried to just start its own music festival called Levitate, right? Because they had like a couple of local artists that wanted to do it. And they've grown it into something in about 5 years where the headliners are now people like Alanis Morissette and Brandy Carlisle, right? So that's a small town that just decided to do this, that got buy-in from its local community and built a brand, right? that now is an annual event that draws, people from across the country and the world that come into it, right? And it's a very healthy breakdown still of a local and regional audience and visitors, right? So that's what I would suggest. Like, understand what kind of brand you're trying to build with the event, why that sort of event matters for your community and would resonate with your community, and to make sure that those community stakeholders feel like they're a part of it from the beginning.
Yeah, so cool on, from both of your destinations. Jim, I had no idea about that Beatles festival. Very cool. I know so many huge Beatles fans that I will have to share that with so that they'll have to come next year.
I'm gonna check that out. I love the Beatles. That sounds like an awesome event.
Yeah, for sure. So I would love to know just one special memory from each of you from your destination's signature event. So from the Boston Marathon and from the Kentucky Derby from each of you.
I would say for us, it's not my favorite memory. It's actually my least favorite memory. But the aftermath of the marathon bombing in 2013 created such a moment of unity and resilience and celebration. And so I'll try not to get emotional here, but like, it's become something that every single year we celebrate the aftermath of what happened, right? And what it meant for the destination, and that the way we came together so in such a beautiful way encapsulated what the marathon itself is all about, and the way we continue to celebrate those who lost their lives, and in a way that is about joy. Yes, there is the poignant memory of life's loss, especially children. But out of that came one Boston Day, which is a date every year on April 15th, where that was the anniversary where we come together for volunteer work to be about community. But it's something that really transcends the calendar, right? It's not just April, right? So the impact of that is something that I think did something for the city that had never happened before. So as horrible as the moment was, there is a poignant beauty in the aftermath of it that every single year we're reminded about. But really every day, every month, we take pride in who we are and how we came together after that moment.
I'm gonna bring mine back very, very personal, and I think it highlights this permeation of Derby into our local culture. I recently found a photo from 1917 from my great uncle at the Derby, going through family photos, and he was this family legend, renowned bachelor. Well, there he is with one of his buddies and two ladies. He was never married, and so I still wonder who these ladies were. But then fast forward to 74 and the 100th running of the Derby. I was all of 10 years old, and I remember vividly being in my neighbor's basement after a big 100th Derby, and just the Derby party that they had, and staying up until late at night, not having to go home and go to bed. And when I think about what Derby now means to my kids, growing up here, and I think all the way back to great Uncle Jim and where we are now, and it that really, to me, cements the legacy and the tradition surrounding this event.
Yeah. Have you seen that it's like a trend to take old pictures from, your family, your parents, your grandparents when they were on vacation, and then you recreate them now? It's like an internet trend. So you should totally do that with that photo of your great uncle and recreate it.
Yeah. So you'd have to know it was taken in the infield at Churchill Downs, and the infield is not something you want photos from these days.
Well, thank you both so much for taking the time to share these stories with us, and just, share a little bit more about these events and, the impact they have on your DMOs. And this was a really special episode. I've been wanting to do this for a long time. So I'm really, really excited that we could, make some time to sit down and chat together.
Yeah, I think whenever we first started taking over the podcast, which was last fall, Jen Ann said she wanted to do this episode with these two events specifically. So we finally made it happen. We're very excited, and thank you both so much. what a fun episode. And as we just said, so special for you. You've been wanting to do this, but also just a lot of great moments that came out of it that were really emotional and really meaningful. And it just shows how much we as tourism professionals connect to the destinations that we work in, that we live in, and that we care about so deeply. And that just translates in so many ways. And yeah, I love to see the human connection in everything that we do. So that was really meaningful to me.
We truly appreciate the time that everyone takes to sit down with us and kind of share their stories and, the evolution of, anything they're working on. So if you have something that you want to highlight, we would love to sit down and talk with you. So reach out to marketing or Kaylee or myself, and we can definitely talk about, featuring you guys on the layover.
Yes, we would love to have you, and please be sure to subscribe to our episodes to get notified when our new episodes come out. Follow on LinkedIn as well, and we'll see you on the next episode.